क्या बात है आशा तो बड़ी सज धज के आई हो. You realize this is a podcast and we don't actually do a video. No YouTube video here.
That's true, but I have to shoot something after we finish recording the podcast. इसीलिए सज धज के आई हूँ. वैसे you're not looking too bad yourself.
अरे आपके मुंह में घी शक्कर. वैसे not that you asked, but I'm also going out somewhere.
Oh, वैसे घी शक्कर अगर डालना है ना दोनों ही allowed है, but after 1 o'clock.
And why would that be?
Because I'm on the IF 18.6.
And what is this IF 18.6? I know is it the 1810 from Paddington?
No, it's not. It is one of the most popular diets in the world. It is called intermittent fasting, and it allows you to eat in a window of 6 hours and then fast for 18 hours. I mean, if there's one thing we've all learned in the last year, it is that health is wealth. And everybody's trying different things to, control their weight, get more active, feel better about themselves, about their body and all of that. So I thought I'd give this a shot. And हर साल, करवा चौथ के दिन जब हम फास्ट करते हैं, I say मैं जब फास्ट करती हूँ. So करवा चौथ day, it somehow feels a bit hard.
So just like you fast on karwa chauth for your husband?
I do, yes. Right. If you meet him, say hello to him.
Just checking.
So when I fast on karwa chauth, sometimes, right at the end, when it is coming to about 12-13 hours, it is a bit of a stretch. So I wasn't sure how this would go, but I have to say so far it's worked out swimmingly. I'm very encouraged by how I feel, how I've not really had any hunger pangs at all, because a lot of the time in that 18-hour window, you're sleeping, you're working, and all the rest of it. You should try it.
86 sounds too much. Do they do like 50-50?
What do you mean, do they do? Karne ko to you can customize it and do what you like, but maybe it wouldn't be that effective. Welcome to the Shabby And Man podcast. We're partners, parents, podcasters, broadcasters,
and everything else in between.
Now we've got a rather packed agenda. We've got a lot to talk about. So let's start with the movie on Netflix that we saw last Friday when it began streaming. It was the big film. It was something everybody was buzzing about. And normally we don't talk about movies, we don't review films. But because this is a favorite book,
You've been excited about this movie for quite some time.
I've been excited about this movie. I came to the book a little late as well. We're talking about Paula Hawkins's international bestseller, the New York Times #1 bestseller, The Girl on the Train. So the Bollywood
Paula
version.
Hawkins, यहाँ की है या New York की है?
यहाँ की है, but
यहाँ की as in I'm talking to people around the world as in यहाँ की meaning
UK,
England.
She is from England, but it ended up becoming the #1 bestseller in the New York Times as well. I'm sure it must have done extremely well here too. So what did you think of it? Tell me. We're talking about the Bollywood version.
I've seen the Emily Blunt version.
Yes.
I've not read the book.
Yeah.
And it was all right. I mean, because it was set in London, I was quite excited and intrigued to know what it's about. I mean, and they made up some of the places. I don't think there's a Greenwich Forest. But...
So this is the Bollywood version with Pariniti Chopra in the lead. And I was disappointed. And I'm not even going to say the predictable thing by saying, oh, the book was better, which it was. It must be the only crime novel that I have read twice. The second time, knowing how the plot will unfurl.
You haven't read Gone Girl? Or you haven't even seen Gone Girl, have you?
I've not seen Gone Girl. I've read Gone Girl.
Oh, that's a good
But then you tell me that Gone Girl, the film was an edge-of-the-seat thriller.
I've only seen these movies, I thought it was an amazing movie.
So isme, Girl on the Train mein, without giving away any spoilers, what really irked me was the fact that, they say if it ain't broke, don't fix it. If something works, you don't have to go and change it. Just stick to the plot. So there is a sinister twist that Bollywood has put, on its own accord at the end.
Oh, you mean they borrowed a Bollywood twist?
They borrowed a Bollywood twist. And I feel that it doesn't work. People, of course, can agree or disagree with me.
You can say what you feel. Most people are under the same impression that it was a lousy movie.
Yeah. And
Pariniti Chopra is a good actress.
She's a good actress, no doubt. मुझे तो ये भी लगता है कि अगर मैंने किताब नहीं पढ़ी होती, this movie would have, on its own, would have made zero sense to me.
Have I seen Pariniti Chopra in any movie? I think I've seen her in Meri Pyari Bindu.
We've seen her in Shuddh Desi Romance, Meri Pyari Bindu. We've seen her in Ishaq Zadeh. Is it Ishaq Zadeh?
I don't know if I've seen that.
We've seen her in, the one where it's about a foodie and she...
Oh, yeah, I love that movie.
Yeah, I've forgotten the Dawat-e-Ishq. Thank you. So we've seen her in a few films. She's an accomplished actress, no doubt. Somehow,
Who's stars now? That Roy Kapoor.
Aditya Roy
Aditya
Kapoor.
Roy Kapoor.
Aditya Roy
I
Kapoor.
enjoy the movie. I love food movies.
Huh.
There's a lot of biryani in that. Maybe our next podcast can go back to food as well.
And talk about what we love eating. Abhi maine bataya ki I am on a fast. I
sorry.
cannot eat for 18 hours in the day, and you want to talk about biryani. Anyway, back to The Girl on the Train. And
But layered biryani का मजा ही कुछ और होता है.
listen, मैं सोच रही थी कि कई बार, there have been Bollywood films that were based on either Hollywood films or bestsellers, and they've added their own tadka and masala. But it has worked out well. It has worked wonderfully.
You haven't seen movies from the 80s. They were all chapod from Bollywood movies.
No, but I'm talking about intelligent whodunits, like Gajini.
That's why we get started on the music.
Yeah, music to chhod do. But I'm talking about films like Gajini.
That was good.
Which is Christopher Nolan's Memento, then made into a South Indian film, then made into the Amir Khan
I've seen the Amir Khan version. I haven't seen the South Indian version.
we haven't seen this South Indian version. Then I'm talking about Zinda, which is Old Boy, which is a Korean film, then a Hollywood film, and then Sanjay
But that would have
Gupta.
been too risque for Bollywood.
That would have been
boy.
So they added their own twist even in Zinda at the end. But I thought on its own the story worked so well. They captured the essence of the plot so well. That is what is missing in The Girl on the Train, I feel. That Ribhu Das Gupta, he was too busy ticking the boxes and making sure that all the incidents were, unfurling the way they were in the book. And then suddenly you decide to add something else which is completely out of the blue. So yeah, that's that.
So it didn't...
It didn't do anything
Didn't
to
do
it.
anything to you.
We had to watch it because obviously,
You
if
waited
it's-
so long. There's another movie this week that has come out on Netflix, I think, or Amazon Prime. I'm never sure. I think it's Amazon Prime. Is Coming to America Part 2.
Okay.
And people are really excited about that because the last one came out nearly 30 years
Eddie
ago.
Murphy.
Eddie Murphy, Arsenio Hall, Earl Justice Jones, James Earl Justice Jones.
Huh.
His name is not Justice Jones. I forgot his name here.
So is it a sequel to what happened then, or because I have not seen that film, so I have
It's
no
very
idea.
funny. Yeah, this is many years later. I think his son is now the prince.
Okay, so I was just saying, has the old cast kind of come back in
That's
this
why
sequel
it's
as
such
well?
a big deal. Though that's also getting reviews that it's not as good as the original. But we don't know. Talking about things on TV, this weekend, now we're actually recording this on a Saturday
Yeah.
in the morning with a cup of tea. Let me just prove it. Yeah.
I'm allowed to have tea and coffee, by the way, in that 18-hour window.
Chai Pino. But the big thing this weekend is the TV show with Harren and Meghan.
Harren. Who's Harren?
Did I say Harren?
Yes.
Oh, sorry, it's a chai. Harry and Meghan.
Yeah.
And Oprah.
So Oprah Winfrey, essentially it is a conversation with Meghan, the Duchess of Sussex, and Harry
Harry.
joins at the end. That's
really?
what it is, yeah. So
You're
it's not...
more informed than me then.
Why have you not seen the clips? There are so many clips where there's no
I've
Harry.
seen one
It's just-
clip where it says that I wanted to talk, Oprah says to Meghan, I wanted to talk to you in 2018. And she says, I wasn't allowed. That's the kind of clip I've seen.
And then the one where she says that, were you silenced or were you silenced?
Yeah.
Right? So it is the big one. It's going to get all the ratings. It's out in America on Sunday night. We'll get to see it on primetime television Monday evening. So by the time our podcast goes out, people would probably have seen it anyway. But
What's very strange is that this country is very divided.
Yeah.
There
There are
there's
royalists.
a stark division
Yeah.
of people saying that they're so show busy and seeking attention seekers, going out for it, while the others say that really she's been given a very tough time, especially as she's pregnant right now as well.
Yeah.
So let's watch and see what happens.
Yeah, your diehard royalists are saying that she knew what she was getting into, while on the one hand she is okay to enjoy all the privileges that came with her royal duties. Now she's like, kicking up a fuss and pretending as though she didn't know all of this was part and parcel of the game.
But I like Harry's viewpoint that he doesn't want history repeating itself.
Yes, he's talking about his mother there, of course,
Yes,
the way
yes.
Princess Diana was hounded. And I think it's quite poignant where he says that at least we've got each other. We feel like we're both on the same team. With my mum, she was all on her own. I shudder to think how she coped with all that media scrutiny and that incessant,
Hounding of the press.
hounding of the press, prying into her private affairs. But even Diana, I mean, she played to the gallery. There's always been, people who say that she enjoyed that attention. And let's not even forget how amazingly beautiful she was. So she must have been a pleasure to photograph.
So when you used to live in your pin, did you used to collect? Did you have a scrapbook?
I didn't have a scrapbook, but I do remember that even back in the Pind, which was Delhi, by the way, I did have a book which was a compilation of Diana photographs. I mean, who didn't growing up? Right?
I saw a couple of times. I used to party in Leicester Square or whatever, and there used to be
Party with Lady Diana in Leicester Square.
I remember once or twice there was a film premiere happening,
Huh.
and I also stood and watched. I can't remember what it was, but I did see her.
I remember mentioning
coming out
this
of
in a podcast
Rolls Royce, whatever.
a long time ago, that one of my first memories when I was very, very young was Prince Charles and Diana's wedding photograph when they're kissing outside St. Paul's Cathedral. And that was in black and white because we used to live in Indore then. And it was obviously splashed across the front page as it was around the world when they got married. It's a black and white photograph of Charles and Diana kissing with St. Paul's in the background. I still remember that Nai Duniya is the highest selling paper in Madhya Pradesh. And I still remember the front cover.
When we moved here, many moons ago now,
Yeah.
one of the first things you did was go to St. Paul's. Do you remember?
Yeah.
You went on a tour.
Yeah, and I went to Harrods as well because for the longest time, they've taken it away now.
They had the memorial.
They had the memorial in the basement. They had the Dodi Fayed and her and the champagne glasses that they drank out of in Paris, which was their last meal together. So they had that for the longest time, and it was such a shrine for Diana fans. I think that's gone now. I don't think that's around. So yeah, Oprah, Harry, Meghan. Once we've actually seen the interview, I think in the next podcast we'll be able to talk about this in greater detail, right?
Hopefully.
Let's talk about this Monday, the 8th of March, which is International Women's Day. I'm sure the world has grand plans of celebrating women, of celebrating their achievements. And this year's been so different. Everything's been, all over the place. And people have been...
There's two camps for this as well, for International Women's Day. Some people say that why only celebrate it one day?
Yeah.
Every day is International Women's Day. They say that for everything.
Yeah. That it's just token appreciation.
But other people say, no, it's a great time to shine.
Yeah.
Let ourselves be heard.
Yeah, it is one day to acknowledge what women have achieved, how far they've come, what they're doing for each other, all of that. Before we get into... I'm going to be a part of a rather exciting International Women's Day event online next weekend. But before that, have you noticed how even on digital, especially stuff that's coming out of India now, there is a lot of women-centric content which is coming to the mainstream. And I'm talking about dramas.
About time, isn't it?
About time. I'm talking about dramas like Bombay Begums. You've seen that in the press as well.
I have. Pooja Bhatt.
Pooja Bhatt. Yeah. I'm talking about Alia Bhatt's first production, which she stars in as well. It's called Darlings. It's a mother and daughter story. Alia and Shefali Shah as mother and daughter. That's getting a lot of press. Then there's something else called Girls Will Be Girls. They're talking about that as well, which is again a mother and daughter story. So I think women have finally found their voice on digital in India. And while in Bollywood, you can count on your fingertips.
It just reminds me of that 4 shots more, please.
Yeah, 4 more shots, please. And it's good to see a variety of genres, because 4 more shots, please was a light-hearted take on Sex and the City or, 4 girls finding their way around a metropolis and coming of age and all of that. But it's also serious stuff.
There's that Pakistani one, Churels.
Churels, yeah. So there is a variety of content out there. And it's delightful to see that it is powered by women, not just on screen, but off screen as well. So you've got people like Alankrita Chaturvedi, Alankrita Srivastav, loads of exciting, Reema Kagti, loads of exciting women directors who may or may not have been given the time of day in Bollywood, purely because of their gender.
Did you say Reema Kagti? Doesn't she work normally with Zoya Akhtar?
Zoya Akhtar, yeah. So they have Tiger Baby Films. And she's assisted Zoya Akhtar and she's done Honeymoon Travels and a few films here and there. But I think it's very exciting to see the kind of content that's coming out on digital.
And you're saying that Bollywood is far behind in this, is lagging.
I think Bollywood
The Wedding was one of the few women-centric.
Yeah, it was a bit of a benchmark, and Bollywood has had its share of celebrating women on screen, but not enough. Not enough. I think digital will accelerate that, because once you start seeing a certain kind of content coming out of digital and people really appreciating it, can Bollywood still afford to follow that thaka hua formula and roll out those stereotypes that have been around for decades now? I think a new wave is now long overdue. New stories, fresh perspectives, celebrating stuff that's good, talking about things that don't tick the formula box at all, and yet stories that are entertaining. They don't have to be preachy. There's also this perception that people feel if it is something women-centric, it has to be very heavy and intelligent, and it doesn't have to be that. It can be lighthearted.
But if these new censor laws come in India, then a lot of these OTT, a new word we learned in the last couple of years.
Yeah.
What is OTT again? Over-the-top platforms.
Something like that.
Well, a lot of these digital channels will have to tone down.
Yeah.
Every time I read the paper, I see the makers of Tandav apologizing here and there.
Yeah. That is going to be sad because...
And the government is actually threatening employers, not employers, but employees of Twitter and Amazon and all.
To be responsible.
Yeah. Dire consequences if they don't.
There's a case for both
out.
sides, I think. While on one hand, people are saying that, look, think of the minority. Don't just think of people in the big cities, those who have traveled, those who are educated. Think of the minorities in India.
The metro valley.
Don't just think of metro. Think of the people in the countryside, in the villages, because they may be easily swayed. So in a hypersensitive democracy like India, you've got to think of them as well when you make the laws. And therefore, on the other hand, when the creative powerhouses are saying that, look, we are not kids, right? Give us the power to decide whether we want censorship or not. Unless it threatens the security of the country and unless it is so morally wrong that it completely is something that needs to be banned, give us that power to decide. Put certification. Say that this is a 12A, 16, 18, whatever. वो कर दो. लेकिन हमारे बिहाफ पर ये moral policing मत करो. लेकिन the government is saying we need to do it in a country like India, जहाँ पर religious sentiments के basis पर, gender bias के basis पर.
Right, it's not easy being the largest democracy in the world.
Yeah. Do you remember Padmavat? Before Padmavat came out, do you remember there was such a hue and cry over Deepika's midriff showing? You know that, she's a Rajput Maharani, we can't have that. And Sanjay Leela Bhansali had to go back to the drawing board and digitally come. Yeah. How ridiculous is that in today's day and age, where you see so much more all over the media? So it is, you're right. Censorship on digital, I don't know. Is that going to muzzle people's creativity and they'll say, what's the point? We may as well do Bollywood now.
Yeah. I once heard English politician say, and this has always stayed with me, I heard this many years ago, he said that we always make laws for the weakest in our society. And that's true. Sometimes you don't just think of...
In fact, you told me this the day you heard the interview, and I remember what the context was.
Really?
You know what it was?
What?
It was euthanasia.
Was it?
Yeah. That why do more countries not allow people who are terminally ill and have no chances of living? Why is euthanasia allowed only in 3 or 4 countries in the world?
Yeah.
That's when you said, I remember you mentioned it to me, saying that it could be misused. It could be misused by someone who's in a vulnerable position, but by their family, right? By people who stand to benefit financially maybe from someone's death. So you always think of the weaker sections when you make laws. I remember that. Coming to International Women's Day, I'm excited. On the weekend...
Is this why you dressed up today also?
No.
There's something else.
Today.
Actually, you're doing quite a few things this month, aren't you?
Yeah, I am. But the one that specifically relates to International Women's Day, it's next weekend. And I get to chat with 3 amazing ladies. So I'm talking to the lady who is the first scientist in India. She's retired now, but she used to be with ISRO, which is India's NASA.
Oh, yeah, ISRO.
ISRO, ISRO. And she is... the first woman to head up a mission that actually it did some amazing things.
Did they make a Bollywood movie?
Mission Mangal was kind of a tribute to all... loosely based.
Yeah.
It was a tribute to women scientists in India. But this is the real deal. She actually did it. So I'm hugely excited. I'm talking to her. I'm talking to another lady who is the first professional tabla player in the world. Okay. And she is a disciple of Ustad Allah Rakha, Ustad Zakir Hussain. Impeccable credentials.
Wow.
I'm talking to another girl who's an Indo-American. She's a flautist, she's a singer, she's worked in Bollywood, she's done independent collaborations with John McLaughlin and...
John McLaughlin of Mahavishnu Orchestra.
Yeah. So
he's one of my heroes, also, he's a lot of my Miles Davis albums.
So I'm very excited to be chatting to these women and exploring their journey and talking to them about not just how they how they navigated the obstacles, the disappointments, the prejudices in their career, but also what they would like to say to the next generation, to empower all these young girls, even girls and boys who look up to them as role models and want to go down that path. I mean, this lady who's a scientist, she's retired now. So back in the day when she became a scientist, she was really, now it's different, she was really amongst a handful. So I'm really...
Handful of women,
especially in India, who'd taken up that as a career. So I think it's going to be an
I know, because I read their little CV kind of bios, yours as well.
Yeah.
All of you got a first in something.
Yeah.
I liked your one of the first people to do internet radio.
Yeah, in India, back in the 90s.
Why didn't you mention that you did it with your husband?
Yeah, well, that's because it's not International Men and Women's Day. It was only Women's Day. But you pointed out to a Time magazine cover that you said was quite impressive as well, which has a few women on the cover, right?
Yeah, it's some of these farmer women who have marched to Delhi, and it's made the cover of Time International.
Yeah, and it talks about women on the front line of India's farmer protests. And
Correct.
I haven't seen it, but you were saying that it's a big thing. That means, right? If it's on the cover of Time magazine, the world is now taking note of how women are.
Yeah, I'm not sure how Time magazine works, if they have a separate edition for Asia and a different
or if it's an online edition and the actual.
Sure, but it's getting a lot of coverage, a lot of traffic.
About time too. Here we are in 2021 at the end of a pandemic where I think people have really now come to the conclusion that life is here and now. You need to celebrate everything that's good. You need to shine a light on people who've been left behind and have been, left out of the game for far too long. And sisters are doing it for themselves, as they say.
Sisters are doing it for themselves. With that, shall we say goodbye?
I think we should.
Don't forget, should we take a break for a week or two?
I think we should.
And come back with a microphone and a computer and do it properly like everyone else?
And season 3?
And maybe it's going to be season 4,
Oh, season 4. There you
go. And maybe have guests or too much jhanjat.
I don't know. We'll see how it goes. But maybe we will be off for a couple of weeks. But we'll return soon. Please don't forget to find, download, subscribe. Well, if you're listening to it, you've done all of that. But recommend to your friends as well. It is the Shabby and Man podcast. We are on all your favorite podcasting apps and platforms.
Till next time.
Bye-bye
now.